Hello, everyone. This is MMA Interesting Prospects podcast. Today, our guest is Elite Fight Night welterweight champion Valanti Atsas. Hello, Valanti. How are you?
Good, good. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. And just a few days ago, you won another fight. It was your eighth professional win. And if you can tell me, because it was a title fight, you won the fight, you defended your title. How do you overall feel after this fight? And what is quite interesting, you fought against this opponent previously.
I feel pretty good. I feel good about the fight. We fought 8 years ago as amateurs for an amateur title. I took that fight on short notice, and then 8 years later, he used to be the pro champion before me, and then I was going to challenge him for the belt as I was coming up through the ranks. But then he ended up going to fight for another promotion. He actually went to go fight for LFA. And then he ended up coming back. And then we just ended up crossing paths again. So it was like a current champion versus like a former champion kind of deal. And he's currently, I think he still is. I don't know if they updated the rankings yet, but the number one welterweight as a professional in the state of Indiana. So with getting the win and coming off my first loss, my last fight, I feel pretty good, man. There was a lot of pressure on me going into this fight, defending my belt, going against the number one welterweight, going against somebody that I fought before that actually got the win last time we fought. But I mean, it was 8 years ago, and we were amateurs, so I didn't really take too much of that into consideration. But I knew he was a well-rounded opponent and a good martial artist, so I was up for the challenge. And it's also my 20th MMA fight. That was my 20th MMA fight, being my ninth pro fight, and then I had 11 amateur fights. So, and then I had like I've had like five or six amateur kickboxing and Muay Thai fights. So this puts me at like total competition fight number 26, but for MMA number 20. So it's good to, kind of see where I've started as opposed to where I'm at now. And yeah, man, I feel good.
And probably because you fought against him so many years ago, it's probably tough to watch like the previous fight and this fight to be based on your training camp because it was such a long time ago. So it's a little bit irrelevant probably.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I felt about it going in. I didn't really take too much consideration in the fight of what happened last time because, I mean, 8 years ago, granted, I'm nowhere near who I am now compared to what I was then. So I wasn't really too worried about that.
And right now you are 8-1. You fought against good fighters, of course. You also got really good amateur experience, so you are much more experienced than like only your pro record. But when you're thinking about your near future, your maybe next fight, maybe next two fights, what would you like to see for yourself? Maybe title defense, maybe some other promotion.
So after my fight, I ended up calling out an opponent that beat me in my last fight. Um, the guy who beat me in my last fight, it was supposed to be a title defense for me, but he ended up missing weight by 2 pounds. And then, so it went from 5 rounds to 3 rounds as a catch weight. And then I actually ended up getting caught in that fight. I felt like I was winning the fight, and then up until I got caught in like halfway through the second round. So after my fight, I ended up calling out the last guy who beat me to see if he wanted to run it back. This time, of course, make weight and then have us go, sign up for a 5 round bout. And that way I can kind of go back. And plus, he's at the top of the rankings too. So it only makes sense. I think currently I'm ranked number two in the state of Indiana, and he's ranked number three in the state of Indiana. So I don't know if those are going to update again with this last fight or if they're going to sit. Um, But as of right now, I mean, that's what's in the books. I mean, we haven't signed a contract or anything like that. But obviously, if something bigger and better comes my way, I'm definitely going to look towards that because my goal is to make it to like, to fight the best in the world and to see how far I can go forward. And obviously, I want to get signed by either UFC or maybe even like PFL or one championship, something that's going to help me not only progress myself to see the how far I can go in the sport, the best fighter that I could be, and then also, help me financially pay my bills.
And actually, in this season of Ultimate Fighter, we have flyweights and welterweights. And like a few months ago, did you think about maybe going there, maybe try to get to the house and then to the UFC?
So I actually filled out my application to get on the house, and I didn't hear anything back, but I did fill out my app to get on the welterweight one. So a little bit bittersweet because I'm like watching it now, like tuning into the welterweights and kind of studying them and seeing what they're doing. But yeah, I actually did fill out my application for that, and this was, let's see, I fought twice since I filled out my application. So when I did fill it out, I was 7-0. Yeah, I was 7-0 when I filled it out.
And right now, I think that Contender Series it's a little bit better way to get to the UFC because you have just one fight, and like going to the Ultimate Fighter probably also can be tough because like you have to make a weight a few times. Of course, you are like in the closed house, so
Yeah.
it's also like mentally quite can be quite tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was taking that into consideration. But I was like, you know what? I mean, the opportunities now, I only have a certain amount of time to get this paperwork in for the deadline. So I just shot my shot, and then whatever happened, happened, and I didn't get on the show, but maybe possibly fill out the form for a contender series. I didn't realize that because I thought for a contender series, they just kind of call you up, but now I realize that there's like a whole like audition process for the contender series now as well. And I didn't really know that before. I didn't figure that out until after I filled out the form for the Ultimate Fighter. Then I saw that they had like a form for like contender series, and I thought they just kind of contact you for that. I didn't realize that there's a whole audition process. But now that I know that, I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll probably just fill out for the contender series as well and just try to keep my avenues open and just try to see where I can go from here.
And when I had a chance to watch your fights, your highlights of your fights too, you're like very good grappler. You have a very good rear naked choke. You have like three or four finishes by the stroke, like in the pro. And did you have any like previous backgrounds with like any like grappling sport, right? Like BJJ or wrestling before you started your MMA career?
So I'm from a Carlson Gracie background. The two gyms that I train at are both Carlson Gracie. I train at Maxim Gym in Indiana, which is where I live. I live in a place called Northwest Indiana. It's also known as the Region. It's the area in between the capital of Indiana, which is like Indianapolis, and then the city of Chicago, which is in the next state over, which is Illinois. But we're way closer to the Chicago area because we're at like the northwestern tip of Indiana. So I live in one state, but I train in two. And both of those schools are affiliated with Carlson Gracie, and I'm a Carlson Gracie brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So when I was first starting to train, I competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, gi and no gi, and then I transitioned into MMA from there. So aside from my 11 fights as an amateur in MMA and my 6 fights in kickboxing and Muay Thai as an amateur, I've also have extensive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience.
So
So
probably uh,
like Carlson Gracie, like it's famous for like its top game pressure. Like back in the day, like you hear names like Vitor Belfort, and then you had the guys like Walid Ismail, who was like really good in the gi, and like the head coach in Nova União, Andre Pernas, like all those guys were original Carlson Gracie guys, and even though like Carlson Gracie now is like probably more known for its jujitsu, there's still like a decent amount of guys who are like more worldwide that like are really heavy on the MMA from Carlson's from the Federation. So I really tried to embody that old school Ricardo Laborio, like that kind of just to name a few names, like that old school, like grind it out. And my two head coaches are um, Armando Reyna and Andre Medina. So I really try to embody their spirit, of just like that top game pressure, just like being relentless.
And like you mentioned, you have a really good tap game. Of course, like taking the back is also one of your best tools, let's say. But what do you think about going for leg locks in MMA? It's like not super popular, and of course there is a certain amount of risk because it's not a grappling competition. But like from your point of view.
Actually, in the last fight, I can't remember what round it was. I think it was like round four. I actually ended up going for a knee bar. And then what happened was I got cut open early, and my blood, by the time like we got later into the fourth round, like the whole canvas was full of blood because I got cut pretty open by I was actually on top in half guard, and I was throwing down ground and pound, and then I like lowered my head to like get like kind of better head control and to kind of like keep him down, and I ended up getting elbowed, and then it kind of split me open. So I kind of had a feeling that there was going to be an opportunity for me to either set up like a knee bar or a straight ankle or a heel hook in the fight because I saw some things on his tape when he would be down and people would be in half guard with his knee shield that I thought I was going to be able to take advantage of. And man, I think if it wasn't so slippery and full of blood, I definitely would have. If I didn't finish it, I would have had a way better, catch on the knee bar. And then I eventually tried to transition to a heel hook, but there was so much blood like on my lat that his foot was just sliding off. And then I went from there I went toe hold. And I even got some pictures from the fight where like you could see me with the toe hold, but even my hands at that point and the gloves were full of blood. So every time I felt like I got a nice catch on a submission, it ended up everything was just slipping off. So at that point, I just had to kind of just like sit in the guard and then just kind of rain down ground and pound. But yeah, if it wasn't so slippery, I'm pretty sure I would have had like I'm pretty sure I would have had a submission. If not, I would have had close to a finish for sure.
And probably in the end you have to be good in like reading the situation because like going for like a jumping guillotine choke, it can work, it can not work, and you should like read the opponent, read the situation to know what kind of risk you take and how big a percentage there is to you for win this fight by this kind of technique.
Yeah, I mean, I always try to like go for position because then when I'm in a position, like you can always like go for a finish from there. And then it's like less risk because like MMA is MMA and jujitsu is jujitsu. So there's like a fine line between separating like sports jujitsu and then like MMA. Because in MMA, like you get punched in the face. Like Carlson Gracie Sr. always said like if you hit a black belt in a couple times in the face a couple times, he's gonna become a brown belt. If you hit a brown belt in the face a couple times, he's gonna be a purple belt. You hit a purple belt in the face, he's gonna be like a blue belt. Just like so, you gotta have like that knowledge of knowing when to think about jujitsu, but also putting it into terms of like an MMA perspective. You know, so there's like a fine line, and I think a lot of young guys have that problem, and this is why like some of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu gets a bad name because they're like, oh, that's never gonna work in a fight. Like this guy's fighting off his back, and they're wearing a gi. And a lot of times like those people don't understand like jiu-jitsu is not just bottom game, it's top pressure. And there's also no gi, which a lot of jiu-jitsu is involved, apart from like wrestling, combat sambo, luta libre. Like there's a lot of different grappling aspects, but for like the guys who really know, there's like jiu-jitsu does come in handy in MMA. You know what I mean? And it's just like a matter of how you apply it. Do you apply it to where it's realistic, or do you apply more to where it's like just sports jiu-jitsu? You know what I mean? Which, by the way, Ryan Hall was at my fight. That was pretty cool. I ended up taking a picture with him, and to fight in front of him, that was that was an honor. That was cool. I got the fight in front of this last fight. I got the fight in front of Ryan Hall, and then Eddie Wineland was commentating. WWE vet and Bellator vet Pooter. He's been commentating on my fights, so it was pretty cool to fight in front of those guys that have like done it before me. You know, speaking of jujitsu, that's why it just yeah, Hall just popped up in my head. But yeah.
Yes, yes. Hall had this has this like unusual style for MMA, but in the end he was able to submit quite quickly, like BJ Penn with heel hook. So it's definitely will be in the books forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
And
So you
you,
got away from him. He used like, crazy inverted game and like, like kind of like Baron Bolo style going for heel hooks. And hey, man, some people can do it. You know what I mean? If they can, more power to them. Me, you're never gonna see me do like an Eminari roll in an MMA fight. I mean, who knows, maybe, but that's not really my go-to, you know?
and
So.
you had your first amateur bout in 2015, so it was 10 years ago. And at that point, after the first win, did you think about becoming like pro MMA fighter? Of course, you had like amateur career, but did you consider this like career as the way of earning money, or it was or at first was it just more like one and done fight for you?
No, I knew fighting was always something that I was gonna do. Um, it was just like a matter of when. There was a time where I was playing like college football, or I was playing high school football, and I had aspirations of playing college football. And then I just wanted to like kind of finish that chapter in my life. And then once college football didn't work out for me, that's when it was like, okay, it's time to fight now. Uh, it's just something I always knew I wanted to do. I was like a huge fan of like UFC in the early days, like watching like George St. Pierre. I remember when Jose Aldo was in WEC, Miguel Torres, like all those guys. And I remember like the old Wanderlei Silva, like back in like the Affliction days when they had those. So I was always watching this stuff. Growing up as a Greek American kid, I watched a lot of K1. I watched like Mike Zambidis, Buakaw, Benchamek, like even in like the K1 days and like the Muay Thai, like I was always like attracted to this stuff. Boxing, like Mike Tyson was still fighting when I was a kid. And so I was always like fascinated about combat and just trying to be like the best fighter. Like I was always like kind of like a rowdy kid when I was younger, and I was really into like, like heroism stuff. You know what I mean? Like growing up as a Greek kid, Achilles, like Hercules, like Leonidas of Sparta. And that's kind of when I built my what I identify when I fight. Like they call me 300. My coach gave me that nickname. So yeah, man. It's just something I always knew. It was just like a matter of time when. And then I kind of dabbled into training when I was like 17 with like an MMA class and then some jujitsu as a white belt, like just training. And then I came back when I was like 20, 21 years old. And that's when I really started full-time training. And then I ended up taking like a smoker Muay Thai fight, like 6 months into training. Then I started competing in jiu-jitsu from there. And then I did a couple more kickboxing fights, and then I went into MMA.
And you mentioned a few like big names, few legends. And at the beginning of your like MMA career, even as the fan, when you watch the sport, who was like one guy that make you love MMA?
Um, I mean, thinking about it, one guy, I mean, I used to watch, I was watching Vitor Belfort a lot. Because, once I joined my gym when I was 21, I'm 33 now. So I've been at I was like 20, 21. I've been at my gym for like 12, 13 years. And just like being like, I really got into like the legacy of, Carlson Gracie. And then I would see like Vitor Belfort, and I was like, oh, wow, like he's the Carlson Gracie guy. And then I started doing my research, and I really got into like Jose Aldo. And then I saw that his head coach was like a Carlson guy. So then, and then just like, man, GSP, I don't know if I so much appreciated him as much as I do now, but I always watched him. And just, I mean, in my opinion, I think GSP is the GOAT. Um, Even over John Jones, like even over Khabib. I think George St. Pierre is the GOAT in when it comes to MMA. And I got my own reasons for that. Like I just think he just knew how to win. Like if if you were good at something, he wasn't going to try and beat you at what you were good at. He was going to find a way to win. And I think that's what it takes to be the GOAT, man. Just find a way to win at all costs, you know? And plus he's lost. So for you to come back, especially me now, because I lost my last fight and then I came back and I haven't lost in like 8 years. So mentally that does something to you. And just, hearing GSP about like how he lost to Matt Serra and then how he came back. And then he lost to like Matt Hughes before and then he came back. Like that just resonates with me. Like you have to kind of lose to kind of make to be the best version of yourself, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So I think GSP's a go, and I just always remember growing up watching that dude, man.
And
Yeah,
also, it was kind of crazy that he definitely was not a trash talker, and still the people buy pay-per-view because of him. And it was like evidence that you don't have to be, of course, like people like Conor McGregor in MMA, like super like this kind of confident guys. Are also good for the sport, but in the end, you don't have to be this kind of guy who are like fighting all the time on the press conferences. You can be like super humble, respectful, and people still gonna definitely watch your fights.
yeah. And the thing is, like, if you listen to GSP, like, he's very honest. He's like, I was always scared in my fights. I was always telling myself, how do I get out of this? Like, and that's not something you hear from everybody, because like as a fighter, like in the locker room, like there's a million things going through your mind. And like a lot of times, like people don't talk about these things. Or like when you're sitting at home before you go to bed, like how hard it is to fall asleep. And I just felt like he was really honest. Like now when you listen to him, he's very honest about like, how he felt as a fighter. And I feel like a lot of fighters don't really open up about, like the mental battle that takes place. Like a lot of them do, but like a lot of them are just like, oh, I'm never scared, like this and that, or uh that like they say like they're never worried about the result. You know what I mean? So I respect him for that. And that's also another reason why I think he's the GOAT, is because he's like super, super honest and he's super humble. You know what I'm saying? Like to really tell people like what was going through your mind back then, like that takes a lot to like open up and be vulnerable like that. But I mean, that just shows like you got nothing to lose, man. Like you don't care. Like that's the true winner right there. Like, you don't really care what other people think about you, and something I like to strive to emulate, you know.
And do you have some ways about dealing with stress before your fights?
Um, Yeah, I mean, recently I've really been kind of focusing on like the mental part of the game, and I heard something from Bilal Muhammad when he was talking about before his last title defense that Khabib told him, and he's just like let go of the potential result, you know, like let go of the result, like don't care about the result because I think like a lot of the problem that we have as like fighters is that we identify with this, like this is our identity. So like when you when you lose, it's like this is my whole life. Now I lost. Like what am I gonna do from here? You know what I mean? But we're not thinking about we're like part of the 1% that do this. Like the rest of the world doesn't do this. Like people wonder how we have the balls to go step into a cage, lock the door, and fight another grown man. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not thinking about these things. We're thinking that like, oh, my life's over. Like I just lost. What am I gonna do now? Or I'm not gonna be able to like get called up to the next big promotion after this loss, or just like kind of letting go of the result, man, and just like knowing that my preparation, I did everything that I could to secure a victory. And at this point, it's in God's hands. Like I try to go into every fight knowing that I did everything that I could. Um, whether it was like, the training, the rest, the recovery, the diet, trying to manage my stress as best as I can. And just knowing that like I did everything I could at this point, I feel good. I feel confident. Now I got to execute fight night and whatever else happens, happens. If God thinks that, he wants me to win and he wants to give it to me, cool. If he doesn't, then I'm good with that too. So once I started adopting that, like in my brain, like, dude, you've done everything you could. You're prepared, And the more like you put in the time and training and the more work you do, the more confident you feel. And I know almost every camp now, I go in knowing that I've done everything that I can, with everything that's within my power, with where I live, with the training. Sometimes we get really bad weather here, so it's a little bit harder to cut weight in the winter. Sometimes it's hard to get the training, but no matter what, I find a way, with like the snow and like stuff like that. And then work, I find a way to find the correct balance to where I could still, make money and pay my bills and then still train. So everything within my power, I base around my career, my fighting career, and I try to just move everything, you know, to the side, whether it's like social gatherings, missing parties, staying out of going out at the club, staying away from women, like whatever it takes, I'm gonna put my fighting first, knowing that I've done everything that I could for this fight. And then at the end, I feel supremely confident, man. And then, I got to remember that I got other things that I'm grateful for and I'm blessed besides fighting. Even though fighting's my main thing, once you adopt in your head that you have other things as well, um, not saying that I'm putting fighting on the back burner for anything else. Fighting's always my primary. But if I don't win the fight, like my life's not over. I still have a lot to be thankful and blessed for. And once I adopted that, it really helped with my mental, man. And then I pray a lot. I prayed a lot this camp, and not so much for me to win, but just for like God to kind of help me out and to because I have like other things going on in my personal life financially. My mom had a stroke like 2 Januaries ago, like a year and 6 months ago. So like within the past like 2 years, my life's been really challenging. Just kind of dealing with that, adjusting to it financially, like being like the sole provider of my household and just dealing with that and then just talking to God, it's just definitely helped me out, man. It's definitely I don't know, feel like I'm not carrying everything on my shoulders anymore, and God's really like helped me take some of that load. You know what I mean? Whether it was stuff financially, stuff in my immediate household, stuff in my personal life, relationships, things that didn't work out for me that I thought were going to work out for me in the long run. It's just like you think something's going to happen and then you get blindsided by left field. And it's just like, okay, like, how do I look at this now? Do I look at it in a negative way? Do I get mad? Do I get upset? Or do I just realize that, hey, God's trying to build you into the best version of yourself? This is why he's putting you through it because you can handle it. And then once you're over it, like you're going to be what he wants you to be. You're going to be like your best self. You know what I mean? So once I started kind of adopting this mindset that like every negative is part of God's plan and it's going to put you in a better spot later, once you overcome these obstacles, once I started thinking that way, instead of thinking about like the negative at the end, as soon as I started thinking about the positive at the end, that really helped with my mental going through fight camp. And then another thing, man, just enjoying the process. Like, yeah, we cut weight. Yeah, we go to practice. Yeah, we're tired. But like, the closer you get to the fight, like the more your camp like kind of change, like the more your daily life kind of changes. So instead of like thinking of it as like work, I started like, oh, I'm on vacation. I'm taking off work this week. I'm cutting weight. I'm going to practice. I'm gonna listen to my music. I'm gonna hang out. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make the best of it. You know what I mean? Or, go sit in the sauna with my teammates. Like, I don't know. I just tried to change my mindset a lot, especially this past fight camp. And I grew a lot because I lost in February and it was the first time I ever got finished in a fight. I've never been finished in 20, 24 fights. That's kickboxing, amateur MMA, pro MMA. Never been finished. And then I got finished my last fight. So I just had to kind of change my mindset, like going into this.
And it definitely worked in the end because you won probably the biggest fight of your career.
Yeah, on paper, this has to be the biggest fight of my career. I mean, the guy was ranked number one in the state. Um, I was ranked like at the moment like number three, and he had the title before me, and then I had it now, and he was constantly calling me out, like constantly. Even ever since even my pro debut, before I even walked out into the cage, because I fought after him, I was the main event. He fought before me. He was already calling me out on the mic to fight me. And I didn't even have a pro fight yet. And I'm pretty sure he had like maybe three or four pro fights already. And we had already fought as amateurs. And he was already calling me out from them. So not only did he beat me as an amateur, he had the title before me. The last card where I lost my fight, he won his fight by first round KO. So like, and then even the last time he was calling me out on the mic. So all this is like building up into it, you know. And then on paper to fight the number one guy in the state, to fight the guy who was the former champ versus the current champ, and it's my first 5 round fight. It's my first 5 round fight as a pro. I had one as an amateur, but those are only 3 minutes. And then I had two in kickboxing, but those are only 2 minutes. So now this is my first 25-minute fight. So all that going into it, and coming off my first loss, and it was big for me. It was probably like the biggest welterweight fight in the Midwest, and probably the biggest fight ever for the promotion that I'm fighting on. 5 round title fight, number one versus number three in the state of Indiana, welterweight. I was ranked pound for pound at the moment 11. I think he was ranked like 7 or 8 pound for pound in the state. So On paper, it was a big fight, and then, all the build up leading up to it for all these years that made it huge, you know.
Okay, Valanti, so many thanks for the time and for conversation. I hope that in your next fight you either get the rematch of the fight that you lost, or maybe you get some other opportunity in other big organization, and you will fight quite soon.
Yeah, yeah, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully, something bigger and better, and then if not, defend my belt against and avenge my last loss, and just keep climbing to the top, man.